Bikin aplikasi augmented reality seperti ini. Caranya sangat mudah. Silakan ikuti tutorial berikut.
First thing you have to do is to set up this project. Now to set up this project, you have to create a project first. So to do that, what you can do is you can open your Unity Hub, click on this new project option, choose the Unity editor version you want to use. Now for this course, for this lecture, I'm going to use 2021. You can also go for any other version, like I have 2020.3.40F1 also. So you can go for any other version you want. But I would suggest to keep up with 2021 as it is the latest version, latest stable version that we have right now. And so yeah, let's move forward. Now, once you've selected your editor version, right, the next thing you got to do is you have to select the template. Now, of course, there are multiple templates. There's 2D template, 3D template, 2D URP, 3D mobile, then 3D URP, 3D sample scene URP, and many other templates that you can download. But for this now, we want to start with a blank 3D template. So we are going to select the second option, that is 3D code. Now, once you have selected that particular option, you have to name your project. Now, what should you name? You can name anything, right? I can name it jet turbine simulation, right? I can name it this way. Then if you want to change the location of your project, you can totally do that. You just have to select this location option, click on it once, and then what you can do is you can simply select the folder you want to create the project. And once all these things have been done, you can simply create project. Now, if you don't have any Unity editor installed, what you can do is you can simply go to install, click on install editor, select the Unity version. So this is the latest version that is out there, that is 2021.3.17F1. What you can do is you can simply click on install, select the Android build support, because if you want to build for Android, you are going to need it. And if you want to build for iOS, you can select that. And then click on continue, agree the license, and then click on install. Okay, and then it would start downloading and installing the editor and all the packages that is necessary for building for Android and iOS devices. And then you can again create the project, give it a few minutes to create the project, and then we can get started. Now, once you have created the project, this particular editor window will be opening up, right? This is the Unity editor window. And in here, the very first thing we have to do is we have to set up this project so that we can build for Android, and it should also support augmented reality. Now, you already know for all these 4 projects that we are going to develop, we are going to use something called AR Foundation and AR. So AR Foundation is more of like a universal package in where you can add the AR Kit and AR Code plugin that would actually help you build cross-platform AR applications. So now, before setting up all of that, okay, what you have to do is you have to click on File, click on Build Settings, and then switch to the Android build if you are building for Android. Or if you are building for iOS, you can simply switch to the iOS build. Okay. But for now, we want to keep it to Android only. So what we are going to do is we are going to select the Android build and then click on switch platform. Now, this is a small tip that I always follow. Basically, what happens now, if there are already assets available within your editor window, that is within your project itself, it's going to take a lot more time to set up this whole project. Okay. Because it's going to convert all the materials, all the assets to the related versions. And to avoid that kind of time, what we want to do is we want to switch to the build platform, set up everything at the very first before importing all the assets that we have. Okay, so that's what I do always, and believe me, that saves me a lot of time. So I would recommend you guys to do that. Now, once your platform has been switched, the next thing you can do is you can simply click on player settings. Now, from player settings, you can change the company name. I'm gonna change it to Coded Reality. Okay, because that is my channel's name. Then you can change the product name to maybe Jet Turbine. And then if you have any sort of icons for your application, you can add the icon to the folder and then select it in here. That way you can also add a logo for your application. And once all these have been done, you have to go to your resolution and presentation. Now, we want this app to be in landscape mode. Okay, so for that, what we are going to do is we are going to go to this default orientation, and I want to check out landscape left. Okay, once you have selected landscape left, what you have to do is you have to click on again other settings. Make sure to uncheck this auto graphics API, because we want to remove this Vulkan API from it. Okay, because AR code doesn't really support Vulkan, so we have to remove that, or else you will be getting errors while building the application. So we are simply going to remove that Vulkan API. Once that has been removed, what you can do is you can turn off this multi-threaded rendering, as we are not going to need it, and then go directly below to this minimum API level and set it to Android 7.0, because that is the minimum API level that AR Core actually supports. If you are choosing any version below that, you are gonna face errors. So make sure to keep it 7.0 or above 7.0. Okay, and then we're gonna have to shift our scripting back into IL2CPP. Okay, now once we shift the scripting back into IL2CPP, you can check this ARM64. The reason we are doing this is AR Core doesn't really support 32-bit architecture. It only supports 64-bit architecture. So you have to shift towards 64 architecture. And with mono, that's not really possible. Like if you check mono, you won't be able to, you won't be having this option for ARM64. So to get that ARM64 option, you have to switch towards IL2CPP. And here's another tip. IL2CPP builds are much more optimized and much more faster in terms of loading. IL2CPP builds are much more faster and much better and much optimized than mono builds. So whenever you are deploying your app to production, make sure to do it in IL2CPP scripting. Okay. And once you are done with this, the next thing you have to do is you have to install the plugin. You have to install the AR Foundation plugin. And also you have to install the AR Core Exa plugin. And if you are on iOS, then you have to install ARKit plugin. And also here's another thing. AR Core is also supported on iOS devices. Okay. So if you want to stay up with AR Core only, what you can do is you can simply install AR Core plugin and also install the AR Core from Apple's App Store. Okay, that way you will be able to run AR Core on iOS devices also. But I think it's much better to use ARKit only, because ARKit has much more functionality. To be honest, like body tracking that AR Core doesn't have. So I always, if you are on iOS, right, always try to use ARKit as much as possible rather than using AR Core. And if you are using Android, then definitely AR Core is the way to. Now to set up this project for augmented reality, you have to click on Window, then click on Package Manager. From there, you'll be able to find this particular drop down, right, at the top. So you have to click on that drop down and select Unity Registry. So give it the time to load, right? And once it loads the packages, you'll be able to find a lot of options in here. It's confusing. I understand that. But to sort everything out, just search for AR, right? With AR, you are going to find a lot of different packages. Now, for this tutorial, we're going to need AR Foundation and AR Core Exa plugin. And if you are choosing to install ARKit plugin also, there won't be much difference in building, setting up the project, the coding part. But yeah, the building part will be different. The deploying part will be different for ARKit. So I'm going to stick with AR Core and AR Foundation. I'm going to click on AR Foundation. The version I'm going to use is 4.2.7, as this is a stable version. And simply going to click install. Give it the time to install the packages. Give it the time to install the AR Foundation packages. And once it is done, what you can do is you can also install the AR Core Exa plugin. Now, as you can see, we already installed the AR Foundation package. The next thing we have to install is AR Core Exa plugin. So I'm going to simply install it. And do you know the benefit of using AR Foundation? AR Foundation helps us to include both AR Core and ARKit plugin. So with a single code base, you can build for both the platforms. It brings a more cross-platform functionality for AR. So I really like using AR Foundation and AR Core other than using any other SDK that is out. Now, once you have installed both the packages, right, you have to go to your player settings again and make sure that AR Core gets initialized whenever it is built first. So what you have to do is you have to click on player settings, then simply go to Exa plugin management and make sure to check this plugin provider. Okay, if you don't check this AR Core AR Core option in the plugin providers, the AR Core part won't be initialized when you start the application, which is definitely not the thing we want. We want AR Core to initialize whenever the app has been started. So we want to check this particular option. And then what you can do is you can rename your scene. I'm gonna rename my scene to Jet Turbine. Okay. And once I rename the scene, you can see that we got the scene name as Jet Turbine at the very top. And also before setting up the scene, I just want to make sure that all the settings in the player settings are totally fine. So let me go through that once. Yeah, we got the graphics API sorted. We got the multi-threaded rendering sorted out. We also got the minimum API level sorted out. We got the scripting backend and the ARM64 option sorted out. Now, there's one more thing. If you want to uncheck this ARM v7 option, the 32-bit option, you can do that. Let me keep it for now. But if you want, you can also uncheck that. And yeah, everything seems fine. And in the XR plugin management also, we got the AR core plugin provider checked. So we got everything set up like for our project so that it supports AR. Now, so that our scene also supports AR, we have to delete the main camera because this camera is the virtual camera and it only records the scene, only gives this game view, right? We want the real world view so that like we want the AR app to access our camera and then place the objects there. So to do that, AR Foundation has something called AR session origin. So what you can do is you can simply right click in the hierarchy, click on XR, add an AR session origin, and then again click on XR, add an AR session. Now, definitely you already know what this AR session origin does. It basically handles all the camera and all the plane management and everything that is out there, all the functionalities. And this AR session actually handles the whole life cycle of augmented reality and Unity. So it is mandatory to have both of these components in here. Now, once you have these components, what you have to do is just create a few folders. The first folder I want to create is called the script folder, okay, because this particular folder is very necessary. Other than that, we want to create a prefabs folder in case we need it. And then we also want to create a materials folder, okay, in case we need it. Now, I already have packaged the assets for you guys. Okay, it's already packaged in a Unity package. So what you have to do is you simply have to download that package from the link given below. And once you download that particular package, you have to simply import it. The process is very simple. Once you download it, you can see that I have this folder called Unity Assets. Now, what I'm going to do is I can simply drag and drop this folder in here, right? Or I can simply click on import package, select the custom package, go to the location of the folder and simply open it. That way, you can see that we got a lot of options in here. You don't have to get confused between these options. What you just have to do is you have to click on import. Okay. Once these packages are imported, you will see an assets folder. Now, within that asset folder, there is an audio file. Another one is this jet engine folder, which contains the prefab for the jet engine. Now, what you have to do is you have to simply drag and drop this jet engine in this particular hierarchy, and you will be able to see that this particular jet engine has been positioned correctly. Now, this is the preferred position. This is the position I tested out this application with. So that's why I've kept this position. If you want to change it, like if you want to move it a bit more forward, what you can do is you can simply use this anchor to move this thing much more farther from the camera. For now, I would just want to keep it to 2 as it is much more of a preference. And then I have made the rotation to 90. Okay, you can also keep it that way, but I would suggest to keep it to 90 or maybe 180. Okay, if you want to see the front view directly from the camera. But for now, I just want to keep it to 90. That way, I'll be able to get the broader view. Okay, and now here you can see that we got our project setup. We got the jet turbine in here. What about the functionalities? We need to code something. Right? We just don't want to augment this. It's pretty simple. We just don't want to augment this thing. What we want to do is just a second. Right? Just a second. Here you can see that this AR session origin is at the top, right? So we don't want it at the top. We want it at the center. So what you can do is you can simply click on this transform. Like click on this particular AR session origin. Go to the inspector, and in this transform, you will be able to find this 3 dots. Click on that and simply reset the transform. Now you'll be able to see the object, right? The game object in here, the turbine in here. Okay, let's talk about the functionality. Now, within this app, we want some interactivity. Or this app will be boring, right? This is more of an educational application, which is going to teach people about a jet turbine. So how should we do this? Now, the basic mechanism that I'm going to teach you today is to, you can disable some part of this particular model. Like, let's say if I want to see the internal parts of this particular, this jet turbine, what I can do is I can simply disable this hull to see what is exactly inside this particular jet turbine. And if I want, I can also enable it. Okay, that way we'll be able to get a much more broader view, much better view of this particular jet turbine. Okay, so to do that, it's actually pretty simple. Okay, but before getting to that mechanism, I want this particular jet turbine, that is this particular, what is that called, rotor or blades. I want this blades to rotate. Okay, so to do that, I'm just gonna write a very simple script. Okay, so what you have to do is go to the script folder, right click on create, and create a new C#. You can call this script as rotation controller. You can name it anything. I'm just gonna name it rotation controller as it sounds much better. Now let the script compile. And once the script has been compiled, just open it within your Visual Studio or any other editor that you are using. I'm using Visual Studio for now, so I'm simply going to use that one. So give it the time. Okay. Now here you can see that we got the start and update method. So let's remove all of these. Okay. We are going to need the update method, but before that, let's create a variable. Now we are going to create a public vector3 variable. Now you will see why I am exactly creating a vector3 variable pretty soon. So give it the time. Okay. Once you have created this particular vector3 variable, you have to go to the update method. Then what you have to do is you have to write transform.rotate, and inside that you have to pass this rotation vector and then multiply it with time.delta time. Okay, so that way you'll be able to rotate your rotational motors. Okay, that is these blades. So let's give it the time to load. Yeah. So as you can see, once we got this particular script loaded up, compiled, what you can do is you can search for the turbine. And then that is this blade. Let me show you. It should rotate something like this. So to do that, what you can do is you can simply first of all select the turbine option. Once I've selected that, just simply add this rotation script in there, and then maybe change the Y value. Let's say in which axis is it rotating. So it is rotating in the Y axis. So I'm gonna simply change it to maybe 100. Okay, and once I have changed the value to 100, you can check if it is rotating by playing the scene. So let's see. As you can see that, yeah, we are able to rotate the particular jet turbine in a certain direction. Okay, so our jet turbine is rotating. It seems more realistic now. Let's add the other functionality, that is enabling and disabling the objects in here. Okay, and before we do that, we are going to create a simple UI. So what you have to do is you have to go to the hierarchy, right click up in there, go to the UI option, then search for this canvas. Okay, now canvas would actually help us to create the UI. Now I'm going to shift to a much better landscape view. I'm going to use this particular OnePlus Nord CE2 Lite device resolution. This is the device that I am using for testing, so I'm going to use this resolution for now. If you want, you can also try to find some resolution of the devices that you want to add, and simply click on this add option, give its name, and then width and height of the device. That way you will be able to create all these options that I have created for myself. So let's revert back, and here you can see that we got the canvas option. Now in here you'll be able to find something called canvas scaler. From there you'll be able to find the CY scale mode. Make sure to change it to scale with screen size. Once you have changed it, this would actually help you to make the UI much more responsive. Now, once you have changed the canvas scaler option, create a button. Okay, so I'm going to create a button text mesh pro. Now, if you're creating a text mesh pro button, it should prompt a TMP importer. Simply click on import TMP essentials. Give it the time to load. Once that particular thing has been loaded, just edit the button once, right? Just see if you can resize it a bit, just for make it to look much more cleaner, much more better. So I'm just gonna do it this way. So, yeah, this one looks much better. Let me center it, right? So I did center it. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna maybe reduce the scale a bit, maybe 0.5. Yeah, 0.5 looks much better. So let's change it to, okay, let's change it to 0.8. Yeah, this is much more visible. Yeah, 0.8 is much more visible. And then what you have to do is simply click on this rig transform option. From there, press Alt in your keyboard. Okay, if you are on a Windows PC, press Alt And if you are on a Mac, I think option is for an alternative for it. So you have to click on option, and then you have to select this particular option so that it anchors to the bottom right. Okay. Now, once it has been anchored, what you can do is you can maybe like increase the position a bit. Maybe let's see. Yeah, this looks much more cleaner. And let's name this button as Hull. Okay. Let's copy the name and again do the same. Add this same for the text and make it a bit bold. Yeah, this particular button looks much more clean, right? Doesn't it? It definitely looks much more clean. If you want, you can also create a much better button through Figma or maybe some other UI designing tools. I'm going to use the default one that Unity is providing. Now I'm going to duplicate that particular button, right? And let's see what else do we have. We have the tubes. Okay, we definitely want to disable and enable the tubes. So I'm going to give it tube. Okay, so we got the tubes in here. Now, again, go change the text of it to tubes. And then here's a pretty neat trick that I really like. Just add this to maybe 120, maybe 110. This value actually depends on the UI. So I'm going to add it as 110. Now I'm again going to duplicate it, right? Let's see what else could we add. We had something called grid. Yeah, we got the grid. Now I'm also going to change the name to grid. Then again minus 110. And then again change the text to grid. Okay, just a second. Yeah. So once I've changed the text to grid, I also add another button for the pistons. So I'm going to simply duplicate it. Name this button pistons. Copy this. Again, go to the text. Change the text to pistons. Then select the button again. Add 110 there. And you can see that we got all the buttons positioned properly. Okay, now if we, let's say, change the UI to something else, you can see that it is pretty much responsive and it is, working flawlessly as it should. Now, once these buttons are added, okay, what you have to do is you have to make sure that once you click this button, it should disable and enable the objects that we have. To do that, we have to create a script. So right click in the project folder, that is the scripts. Then click on create and create a new script. Let's call it mesh. Okay, just a second. Mesh toggler. Once you have created the script, let it compile. Okay. So the script is compiled. I have opened it. The very first thing you have to do is you have to create a variable called game object. Okay, and name it. Naming a variable is really hard for me. It takes a lot of time. Okay, let's name it turbine object. Okay. And once I've added this particular variable, the next thing you have to do is you have to create a Boolean value. Okay, let's keep it private for now. So private Boolean, and let's name it is active. Now, of course, at the very first of the start of the application, all of the objects will be active. So we want to set it to true. And within the within this particular script, we also want to create another function that will actually help us. If we call that function, it is going to help us to disable and enable the object. So to do that, I'm going to create a public void, that is public function, public void. Let's call it toggle. Now, once you write this function, what you have to do is you have to check if the mesh is active or not. Now we want to check this through this is active Boolean. So if is active, what you want to do is you want to set the turbine object to false. So turbine object dot set active to false, and also change the value of is active to false. Okay, that way we will make sure that we are getting the exact value, or able to switch on and off the objects. Now you have to add an else block. Now within that else block, you have to again do the same, but in the else block, you have to turn the objects active, right? That is, you have to make sure that objects are true. The objects are actually on. So yeah, this is it. This is the whole script. This script is actually going to help us toggle between the objects. So once you have saved the script, simply let's load it. Now, as you can see that we got the script loaded up. Now, the next thing you have to do is you have to select the objects you want to disable and enable. So I'm going to select the hull. Then I'm going to select the tubes, then the pistons, then the grids. Okay. Now I'm simply gonna drag and drop this mesh toggle option in here. Then in the hull, I'm simply gonna drag and drop this hull object. Then in the tubes, I'm gonna add this tubes. Then in the pistons, I'm gonna set this object to piston. Then in the grid, I'm gonna do the same for the grid. Okay. Once you have done all of that, select the buttons. Go down below to the on click. Make sure to click on add, and first of all, try adding one. Okay. Change. The next thing you have to do is you have to select the first button. You can see, right? Once the hull object has been selected, if you click on the no function drop down, you'll be able to see something called this mesh toggle. Okay, this is the name of our script. And if your method, right, if your this particular function is public, you should be able to see that function in here. So I have this toggle function, and so I'm simply going to click on this toggle function, and let's try this particular option out. Right, let's see if it is enabling or disabling the mesh or not. So if you click the button, you can see that it is enabling and disabling the mesh. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to do all of the same thing that we have done till now for the other buttons also. So I'm going to select the tube, then search for the tubes option, drag and drop it in here, select the mesh toggler, select toggle, then again same for grid. I'm going to search for the grid option in here, mesh toggler, toggle, and again same for the pistons. So as you can see now, if we play it, you can see we can enable the hull, we can enable and disable the tubes, we can enable or disable the grids, we can also enable and disable the pistons we have. Okay, so this is it for this now. Now, of course, after you have built this whole application, you want to test it out, right? So how to do that? Again, it's pretty simple. You have to click on File, click on Build Settings. Now, you can see that we have the scene active. We have the jet turbine scene active. Now, there are two ways to add a scene. One you can do is you can simply drag and drop this scene in here. And the way is that you can click on Add Open Scene. Now, this is going to add the active scene in here. That is the scene that is opened up within your editor. So it right now I have the jet turbine scene open. So it has added the jet turbine scene in here. And once you have added the scene, you can either click Build and Run. Now, the Build and Run option will only work if your phone has developer options turned on and also it is connected to your device. Another one would be the build option. Okay? You can simply click on build, name the application, anything. So I'm going to name it jet turbine and then click on save. That way your application will start building and you can test your application the way you want. Okay. Another thing you have to keep in mind is that if you want to test your application, make sure the Google services for AR is installed within your phone. You can simply search it on the Play Store. And also make sure your device is supported. Okay, that is, it supports AR code, because a lot of the device does not support AR code. So if your device does not support AR code, that means you won't be able to run this application. So make sure to check that out. And once you have done all that, you have built the application, you can simply install it and test the application out by yourself.